Welcome to today's webcast from the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality about understanding SOPS surveys, a primer for new users of AHRQ's surveys on patient safety culture. My name is Joanne Sora, and I'm an Associate Director at WestStat and the Project Director for the contract that supports AHRQ's SOPS surveys, and I'll be the moderator for today's webcast. Next slide, please. Before we begin, I have just a few housekeeping details. If you're having difficulty hearing the audio, try changing the audio selection so that WebEx calls you back and connects through your phone rather than your computer speakers. If your computer freezes during the presentations, you can try logging out and logging back into the webcast or refresh the page, but you may just be experiencing a lag due to your internet connection speed. If you need help at any time during this webcast, use the Q&A icon that I will show you on the next slide. At any point throughout today's presentation, you may ask a question using the Q&A feature shown here. Depending on the browser you're using, your WebEx screen may look a little different than this slide. But look for the Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand side of your screen and be sure that the drop-down option displays all panelists for you to ask your question so our team can see it. We encourage you to share your name, organization, or role when you type in your question. You can download slides from today's presentation at https://events.westat.com/SOPS with the password SOPS2022 with SOPS in all caps. Today's session is being recorded and a replay of today's webcast will be made available on the AHRQ SOPS website. Next slide, please. Now I'm happy to introduce our speakers for today's webcast. We're very pleased to welcome Karen Ginsberg from the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, who is the Director of AHRQ's SOPS program and CAPS program for the Consumer Assessment of Healthcare Providers and Systems. I'm also pleased to introduce my colleague, Laura Gray, who's the SOPS Project Manager and a WestStat Senior Study Director, and my other colleague, Teresa Familero, who manages the SOPS databases and is also a WestStat Senior Study Director. Again, I'm Joanne Sora, and I'll be your moderator for today's webcast. So here's our agenda for today's call. We'll start with Dr. Karen Ginsberg giving a brief overview of the SOPS program. Then Laura Gray will provide an overview of the SOPS surveys, and Teresa Familero will provide information on the SOPS databases and SOPS resources. We will end with a question and answer session. So let's begin, and I'll hand it off to Karen. Karen?
Thank you, Joanne, and welcome everyone to what we call our SOPS 101. It's our introduction to the Surveys on Patient Safety Culture program. There's many of you are new to our programs, but many of you here today are more experienced with our programs and our products, but I think everybody will find some new information and I hope useful information as well. So welcome to everyone and thank you for joining us. Can I have my next slide, please? I'd just like to start off by talking a little bit about what the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality is. We are a research and science-based agency of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and we are the lead federal agency that's charged with improving the safety and the quality of the U.S. healthcare system. And thank you to everyone who submitted questions when you registered. A question that came up a lot was whether about requirements for using these tools or mandates for the surveys. And AHRQ is not a regulatory agency. We don't require the use of any of our tools or products. And if you want to participate, it's up to you, and we hope you do, but it's all voluntary. So on my next slide, please. AHRQ's mission is to improve the life of patients by helping healthcare systems and professionals deliver care that's of high quality and high value and safe. And here at AHRQ, we talk about our core competencies to achieve our mission. We invest in research and evidence to make healthcare safer and improve quality. We create tools for healthcare professionals to use to improve care for their patients. And we also generate measures and data that help track the performance of the U.S. healthcare system and evaluate its progress. I also want to point out that we feel that it's very important to push the science that we do to implementation and to get our products and tools out to you, our users. On my next slide, please. In the AHRQ's patient safety program, we established priorities, which are to focus on areas of greatest impact, extend patient safety improvement to all settings, prevent healthcare-associated infections and reduce antibiotic resistance, build capacity in the healthcare system to accelerate safety improvements, improve communication and engagement between clinicians and patients, and generally make the safe thing the easy thing to do. The next slide, please. A little bit about the SOPS program. AHRQ has continuously funded this program since its inception in 2001. We developed validated patient safety culture survey instruments and item sets using best methods for development and testing. We also conduct research to further our understanding of patient safety culture, including how to measure and improve it. And we also support voluntary databases. We're going to talk about that more later on. And I'm actually on my next slide, I'm going to talk about our upcoming data submission to our databases. It's all voluntary. This is what we're doing in 2022. We're going to open the database for hospital SOPS in June. We're only taking hospital SOPS version 2.0, the new one, and we hope that you will use, you can use any or all of our supplemental item sets, including Health IT, our newest workplace safety and value and efficiency, all for use with the hospital SOPS survey. Nursing home data submission is going to come up in September of this year, and we're actually working on a nursing home workplace safety item set. It won't be ready in time for data submission, but we are working on that this year. And actually, if you'd like to join us, if you would like to be involved in our testing of the item set or feel like you'd like to participate in some way, we'll have plenty of ways at the end of the talk today for you to contact us. Just drop us a note. So thanks again for joining us. I'm going to turn this over to Laura.
Karen, thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm going to just dive right in and give you an overview of the SOPS surveys. Next slide, please. So let's start at the beginning with background. What is patient safety culture? Patient safety culture can be defined as the beliefs, values, and norms that are shared by healthcare providers and staff in an organization. Patient safety culture determines behaviors that are rewarded, supported, expected, and accepted within an organization as it relates to patient safety. It's important to note here that culture exists at multiple levels, from the unit to the department to the organization and all the way up at the system level. Next slide, please. So what are the SOPS surveys? They are surveys of providers and staff that assess the extent to which their organizational culture supports patient safety. As Karen noted, the SOPS program began in 2001 with the development of the hospital survey on patient safety culture, and that was first released in 2004. There are now 4 more surveys for nursing homes, medical offices, community pharmacies, and ambulatory surgery centers, and we refer to these as the core SOPS surveys. Next slide, please. So this slide here shows some areas of patient safety culture that are assessed across the SOPS surveys, although the survey items are tailored to be specific to each slide, to each setting. The areas of patient safety culture or composite measures assessed across the surveys include communication about error, communication openness, organizational learning, continuous improvement, overall rating on patient safety, response to error, staffing, supervisor management support for patient safety, teamwork, and work pressure and pace. Each of the SOPS surveys also assesses patient safety culture areas that are unique to that setting. Next slide, please. All SOPS surveys are composed of standardized questions. They're core items that support the comparability of survey content across users. To assess additional content areas not in the core survey, you can add optional supplemental item sets. The cover pages for the supplemental items provide instructions about where to place the items toward the end of the SOPS core survey. Next slide, please. So supplemental item sets assess additional content areas beyond areas of culture beyond those in the core SOPS surveys. Again, these are optional and they can be submitted to the database along with the data from your core SOPS surveys. The supplemental item sets focus on the topic areas of health information technology or health IT, workplace safety, value and efficiency, and diagnostic safety. And they've been tested for use in the settings as indicated in this table. So that is health IT, workplace safety, and value and efficiency for hospitals, and then value and efficiency and diagnostic safety for medical offices. We are currently developing supplemental items on workplace safety for nursing homes. Next slide, please. So released in 2018, the SOPS Health IT Patient Safety Supplemental Items for hospitals focus on how the use of health IT affects patient safety. And this item set focuses on EHR system training, support, and communication, workflow, work processes, and an overall EHR system rating. Next slide, please. In response to IHI's National Action Plan to advance patient safety and increased concern about the safety of healthcare workers during the COVID-19 pandemic, we developed workplace safety supplemental items for hospitals. This item set, as Karen mentioned, the newest one, was just released this past November 2021, and it focuses on workplace safety for providers and staff and includes the topics of protection from workplace hazards, moving, transferring, lifting patients, workplace aggression, and work stress burnout. And then we're pleased to share that development is underway on workplace safety supplemental items for the nursing home setting. And so we'll be adapting the hospital workplace safety supplemental items for use in nursing homes. And we're going to be doing some cognitive testing soon, and then followed by a pilot test in spring, summer 2022. We will be looking for nursing homes interested to participate in the pilot test, where we will administer the nursing home SOPS core survey with the workplace safety supplemental items and provide feedback reports of the results. If you're interested in participating, please email our technical assistance line. We'll share that again at the end of the session here, but just real quickly, I'll say that it's safetyculturesurveys@westat.com. Next slide, please. So in 2017, AHRQ released a supplemental item set assessing value and efficiency and for hospitals and medical offices to assess the extent to which their organizational culture places a priority on and adopts practices to promote efficiency, waste reduction, patient safety, or patient-centeredness, and high-quality care. Next slide, please. And then released also last year in April 2021, the SOPS diagnostic safety supplemental items are designed for use in medical offices. And these focus on the diagnostic process, accurate diagnoses, and communication around diagnoses. Next slide, please. All right, so this is the survey development process for all of the SOPS surveys and supplemental items. First, we conduct a review of the literature on patient safety, safety culture, medical error, event reporting, and then we gather existing surveys. We identify and convene a technical expert panel, or TEP, and that has members representing various settings of healthcare. We interview experts, patient safety experts, healthcare providers, and staff, and using all of this information, we then identify some key thematic areas of patient safety culture that the survey or supplemental items should address. And then we draft survey items, and we cognitively test these survey items with healthcare providers and staff to ensure that they are being well understood and that participants or the respondents, the healthcare providers and staffs can understand and respond to these questions. We iteratively revise and cognitively test the draft survey items, and then we again obtain some input from our TEP. Our next step is to do a pilot test, and that is in the healthcare setting, and we conduct psychometric analyses of the pilot test results so that we can examine the reliability and the construct validity of the survey measures. And then as a final step, we consult with the TEP to finalize the survey items. Next slide, please. So now that I've told you a little bit about what surveys we have available, let's now talk about how they're used. So healthcare organizations can use the SOPS surveys to raise staff awareness about patient safety, assess the current status of patient safety culture, identify strengths and areas for improvement, examine trends in their patient safety culture change over time, and evaluate the impact of patient safety initiatives and interventions. Next slide, please. So the SOPS surveys and supplemental items can be found on the AHRQ SOPS website at www.ahrq.gov/SOPS. And the survey forms are available in both English and Spanish, and then also available to download as PDFs and Word documents. For each survey, we also have a survey items and composite measures document, and that groups the survey items according to the patient safety culture composite measures or topic areas that they are intended to assess. If you are new to SOPS, welcome. A great starting point for you that we recommend is reading the survey user's guide. And again, there's one for each SOPS setting, and it provides step-by-step information on how to select a sample, how to administer the survey via paper or web to achieve high response rates, prepare and analyze your survey data, and produce reports of your results. Next slide, please. So the Surveys on Patient Safety Culture is a trademark of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, operated by the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. And the abbreviation SOPS is a registered trademark. This trademark signifies that these surveys and items were developed in accordance with principles and standards established by the agency. They are known for their rigorous and scientific development and evaluation process. As mentioned earlier, our development process includes input from providers and managers and staff in healthcare organizations, as well as researchers and patient safety experts. The surveys and the administration methodologies undergo extensive testing, and they're aligned with other SOPS surveys where appropriate. We also periodically review the surveys, and we get input from users like yourself and experts to ensure that the questions are consistent with changes in the healthcare delivery system and existing standards of practice, and then survey best practice. Organizations that administer an existing SOPS survey with or without the supplemental items may use the SOPS name as long as the core items and response options of the survey have not been omitted, changed, or reordered. We do have more guidance on the AHRQ SOPS website for using the SOPS name and making changes to the survey. So specifically, how you can still modify the background questions, the work areas or staff positions, as well as adding supplemental items to the end of a SOPS survey before the questions. I think that's the end of my little portion here, so I'm going to pass the baton to Teresa to tell you about SOPS databases.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Laura. Again, my name is Teresa Famolero, and I'm going to begin by speaking to you about the SOPS databases. Next slide, please. So there are AHRQ supports databases for each of the 5 SOPS surveys. And so the most recent SOPS database reports include data from 320 hospitals from the Hospital 1.0 survey, 172 hospitals from the Hospital 2.0 survey, 191 nursing homes, and then 1,475 medical offices, 331 community pharmacies, and 235 ambulatory surgery centers, or ASCs. The databases intake data from facilities that have administered one of the SOPS surveys, one or more, but you would voluntarily submit it to that specific SOPS survey database. And the newest database is the SOPS ASC database. The latest database report for the ASCs was posted on the AHRQ website in December of 2021. And we plan on posting the medical office database report for 2022 sometime this spring. Next slide. So you might ask yourself, why should your facility participate in the SOPS databases? Well, first of all, facilities that submit to the database are part of the results in a database report with de-identified facility level statistics. And we do have infographics that display also as well aggregated results from all participating sites. Your name of your facility is never in the report. So it's just really a great way to see how, patient safety culture is doing in your type of facility, and then comparing it to your own results. Second, participating facilities also receive a feedback report for each facility that they submitted, comparing their results to the database. And this report identifies, strengths and areas for improvement. And it's just a really great tool for you to have for your participation in the database. Next slide. So Karen mentioned this, but I'll just go over it again one more time. In 2022, we will have 2 SOPS databases open for users to submit their survey data. AHRQ generally supports 2 databases per year. So from June 1 to June 20th, we will be, the SOPS Hospital 2.0 database will be open. We will also be accepting SOPS supplemental items if you administered it with your Hospital 2.0 database. So you can also submit your health IT, workplace safety, and value and efficiency supplemental items with your 2.0 data. And then we also will have the nursing home database open from September 1st to September 21st. I think this is a really exciting time to see how your patient safety culture compares with other nursing homes. So really encourage those nursing homes to submit. Next slide. So if you're thinking about participating in the SOPS databases or in one of the SOPS databases, there are some requirements for participation. Your organization has to have administered the SOPS survey with or without supplemental items in its entirety without modifications or deletions. You can actually share your survey ahead of time before submission, and we're happy to look at it and review it and give you feedback just to make sure that it does follow the SOPS trademark. Your facility must be in the US or US territories. You need to sign a data use agreement that indicates how the data will be used. This also protects the confidentiality of your organization and your data. You need to complete the data collection before the end of the submission period. And then you need to submit data files per specifications. One thing to note here is if you are a large health system or small health system and you're submitting several data for several facilities, you do need to identify which facility this survey, the respondent level data came from. We do calculate results at the facility level. So that's really our unit of analysis. So that's the reason. And then you need to upload your survey data through a secure online data submission system. This is actually pretty straightforward, but we do have extensive support for SOPS database submission. And we will share the database help desk information towards the end of this presentation. So next slide, please. So as I have been mentioning, for each SOPS database, we do create a user database report. Each report presents data from sites that administer the survey and submitted data. The report consists of a narrative description of the findings, and we also present data by facility characteristics and respondent characteristics. So if you wanted to go back and say, let's say you're from a small critical care access hospital, you can actually go and look at results by bed size, let's say 6 to 24 beds. Or if you wanted to look at results by respondent characteristics such as staff position, you can also do that within the database report. Next slide. So each SOPS database report also contains a database report infographic. The infographic is also posted on the AHRQ SOPS website. And this is just another way to see the high-level results from the database report. Next slide, please. I just wanted to mention that all of our results are calculated as average % positive in the database report. So just kind of wanted to show you how we calculate percent positive based on this item here. So this item is a positively worded item. In this unit, we work together as an effective team. So if you answered agree, strongly agree, that would be percent positive. And percent positive does not include those respondents that answered does not apply or don't know or left that question missing. So it's based only on the valid percentages here. So next slide. And so all of the database reports, as I mentioned, present average percent positive scores for each composite measure and item. So Laura mentioned this, that a composite measure is made up of several items, so possibly 2 to 5 items that measure a specific patient safety culture area or topic. So here's an example of the highest scoring composite measure results from the 2021 Hospital SOPS 2.0 database report. Next slide, please. And one of the biggest benefits of submitting to the database is getting this customized feedback report. Each of the feedback reports will show your facility results compared to the database. If you are a healthcare system and you submitted several facilities, several survey data from several facilities, you'll also get a system report comparing your overall system to the database results. And these feedback reports can easily be shared within your organization, or you can actually, take out a graph and put it into a PowerPoint presentation. We really recommend that you share your results so that your leadership, department managers, and frontline staff understand their areas of strength and opportunities for improvement within their organization. Next slide, please. AHRQ has also established a process whereby researchers can request de-identified and hospital identifiable data sets from the AHRQ SOPS databases. The data sets are for research purposes only, so we do not distribute them for commercial purposes. Just wanted to make that super clear. Researchers interested in obtaining de-identified SOPS survey data from the SOPS database must submit a completed de-identified research abstract form and signed data release agreement. For the hospital SOPS database only, we do provide hospital identifiable data. Identifiable data allows for the linking of SOPS data to other data sets. So WestAT reviews all of the research requests, and then AHRQ provides approval. And database hospitals must also agree to the request via their SOPS data use agreement, also known as the DUA, or provide WestAT written authorization. Let's go to the next slide, please. So now I'm going to switch the discussion over to SOPS resources. Next slide, please. So with the exception of one resource, which is the data entry and analysis tools, all of the SOPS resources can be found on the AHRQ website at www.ahrq.gov/SOPS. So I'm just going to highlight the resources for you in the next few slides. Next slide. So here I'm going to talk about the SOPS data entry and analysis tool. So after you've administered your SOPS survey, we have data entry and analysis tools that use Microsoft Excel to assist with entering your data to create tables and graphs of your survey results. So you could also export your survey data that would be literally ready for data submission. So that's kind of exciting. And there is a tool for each survey setting and supplemental item set. So the tools are super easy to use. You can hand enter your data, or you can copy and paste values from your web survey output into the data entry sheet, and then you would just basically click a button and you can see your results. To use the Excel tools, you must have macros enabled on your computer. And I just, if you want to use them, just basically email database. I'll tell you, email our help desk, which is databasesonsafetyculture@westat.com, or surveys on patient safety culture at westat.com, and we definitely are willing to send this off to you. So here's one of the graphs that are automatically calculated in the Excel tool. So this is very nice. As you can see, it shows the percent positive, neutral, and negative for these specific questions under supervisor, manager, or clinical leader for patient safety. And this is an example of the SOPS Hospital 2.0 Excel tool. Next slide, please. So after you've administered the survey and analyzed your SOPS results, we have an action planning tool to assist you in developing an action plan based on your SOPS scores. And this will help to improve patient safety culture in your organization. So the action planning tool, it's important to note that it's designed for all survey settings, and it provides literally step-by-step guidance to help survey users develop an action plan. The tool also includes an action planning template your organization can use to identify your patient safety culture areas for improvement, document goals and initiatives, needed resources, processes and outcome measures, and of course, timelines. And then lastly, how to communicate your action plan. Next slide. So as you're working on your action plans and identifying areas for improvement, you might be interested in checking out our Improving Patient Safety resource list. We have resource lists for each survey setting and supplemental item set, and these documents contain free links to practical resources that are publicly available to improve patient safety culture and patient safety. The resource list that is on this slide is an example of the SOPS Diagnostic Safety Supplemental Item resource list. Next slide, please. So also on the website, we have a SOPS bibliography. The purpose of the bibliography is to provide citations for articles on the AHRQ's patient safety culture surveys and supplemental items. It includes references on the surveys, psychometric analysis, how to improve patient safety culture, analysis linking the survey to outcome data, analysis linking composite measure with site and or respondent characteristics, reviews of instruments, and international studies. And our references go back to 2005. So this is just a really neat way to look up what you're looking for and see if you can find literature by topics. So let's go to the next slide, please. And as you know, AHRQ sponsors Webcast to provide information about SOPS products and related resources. We offer updates on the status of products and development, and we provide support in using SOPS surveys and data. So our most recent webcast was about the new AHRQ SOPS workplace supplemental items for hospitals. Speakers provided background on the importance of workplace safety, an overview of and development of the items, and results from the workplace safety pilot test and available resources. Another recent webcast introduced the SOPS Diagnostic Safety Supplemental Items for medical offices. And we also have a webcast on how to use the data entry and analysis tool, and one how to use the action planning tool that I just briefly described as well. So you might want to check those out. Next slide, please. So before we jump into the question and answer portion of the webcast, I just wanted to share information with you on your technical assistance and how to stay in the loop on SOPS updates. Next slide, please. So we do offer free technical assistance, or TA, for the SOPS surveys. Our general TA help desk is, you can reach us at 1-888-324-9749 or via email at safetyculturesurveys@westat.com. And they can help you with questions on survey administration, survey materials and resources, or even international requests, or things like the SOPS trademark. We also have a databases TA help desk, and that you can reach us there at 1-888-324-9790 or at databases on safetyculture@westat.com. And feel free to reach out to us on the data entry and analysis tools, assistance on data submission, database reports, and any special analytic requests that you may have from the SOPS databases. So we're happy to help, and so please don't hesitate to contact us. We are there to help you. Next slide. And then we periodically send out email announcements through SOPS email updates, notifying users about SOPS products, such as Webcast, data submission timelines, or other products. And you can sign up for these email updates by going to the top right corner of the AHRQ website and choosing the email updates associated with safety culture, with surveys on patient safety culture. And here you can see what they look like on the screen. So with that, I will send it over to Joanne for question and answer. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Teresa, Laura, and Karen for your informative presentations today. You've shared a lot of really helpful information about the SOPS surveys. And so it looks like we have a really good amount of time now for questions and answers. So as a reminder, you can ask a question through the Q&A feature shown here. You're going to look for the Q&A icon at the bottom right-hand side of your screen and be sure that the drop-down option displays all panelists. And we encourage you to share your name, your organization, and your role when you type your question. And again, you can download slides at https://events.westat.com/SOPS with the password SOPS 2022 with SOPS in all caps. And if you joined late, a replay of today's webcast will be made available on the AHRQ SOPS website. So we're going to leave up that instruction and go to our Q&A. So I'm going to scroll over to that and see what questions we have here from folks from the Q&A. So one question is for Teresa. Is there like a general web survey for each of the SOPS surveys that organizations can just go to administer the survey to their staff?
Well, you know, AHRQ does not currently have a web survey available, a web survey version of the AHRQ surveys on patient safety culture. Survey users, if they're going to do a web survey, they have to program their own web survey or hire a vendor. But we do have within our survey users guide for each of the core surveys how to administer a web survey, and then we also have a vendor list. We can't recommend who they are, but we can provide a vendor list of potential vendors that administer the SOPS surveys.
All right, great. And then another question, this one for Laura. You know, if someone has feedback that they want to provide AHRQ on any of the SOPS surveys or tools, how can they go about providing feedback?
Thanks, Joanne, and thank you for whoever submitted that question. It's a great question. I'm really happy to answer it because we love to hear from you. So any feedback that you have, whether it's about, you know, survey item or suggestions, you can email us our technical assistance, which has been on the slide, but again, I'll say it aloud here. It's safetyculturesurveys@westat.com. We appreciate hearing from you and getting feedback from you, whether it's the survey or even some of our resources. So for example, if you have a great suggestion for something on a resource list, just anything you want to shoot our way, we're happy to hear from you via technical assistance. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us.
All right, next question is for Teresa. For the medical office SOPS survey, what changes have you seen over the years with results, and what do you expect in the future?
Well, I have to say, we've been looking at that recently, and I would say from 2012 to about 2020, we did see a nice upward trend from database to database. Now, this is not trending actual medical offices, it's just looking at the point in time. However, we did notice, or we're noticing, and you will see this in the report, that in 2022, due to the COVID pandemic, we do see some of the results going down a little bit. So just wanted to point that out. But I would say generally, patient safety culture has been improving, and we're very happy about that.
And Teresa, just to follow up, the medical office database was open in the fall of 21. And so when do you expect that the latest medical office database report to be released?
Yeah, so we will be submitting that to AHRQ, and we expect that that will be posted in the spring of 2022.
Okay, great. Okay, next question is from Amy Cole, and I'm going to direct this to you, Karen. Is there a plan or timeline for adding the workplace safety supplemental items for medical offices?
Thanks for that question, and I'm so happy to hear that there's an interest in workplace safety item sets. We developed one last year for hospitals. We released it last year. We're working on nursing homes, and we don't have a plan in place yet for medical offices, but this isn't the first time I've heard of that interest. So thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about things, workplace safety and item sets that are of interest. We don't have a plan yet, but if we do, we'll post it and send it out via Gov Delivery.
All right, great, thank you. This next question is for Laura. Rui Pina is attending the webinar from Portugal and is asking, do you know if the SOPS survey and any supplemental items have been validated in Portuguese? Can I use the survey or supplemental items in Portugal, or do I need authorization from AHRQ?
Hi, thank you for your question. I'm glad to have you joining us. So we do have a number of translations in other languages that have already been developed by other international users who have agreed to share their contact information. None of the instruments haven't been developed or validated by us, but they've been made of other international users have developed them and alerted us to them. So HSOPS 2.0, the hospital survey, has been translated into Portuguese. My team behind the scenes just let me know that we are aware of that, and that we are aware that it has been administered in Portugal. So if you would like to learn a little bit more information about that, again, I'll put a plug in for our TA help desk here, and you can shoot us an email, and that's safetyculturesurveys@westat.com, and you can learn more about that. And then also you can contact us to request permission to use and or translate the survey. So the surveys are free and publicly available, but international users are asked to contact the TA help desk to get permission from AHRQ to administer and use the surveys outside of the US. So thanks.
Great. Next question is for Teresa. Amanda S. asks, when you say users should make no modifications or deletions to the SOPS surveys, does that pertain to removing some of the units or work areas if we don't have those areas?
So I'm glad you asked that question. The only thing that we would say that you can modify in the SOP surveys are the background questions, and in this case of the hospital survey, the unit/work area and staff position questions. We understand that not every hospital has the exact same staff positions or units, and we try to make them as broad as possible when we develop the survey. However, when you do code them to your specific unit, we just ask that if you're submitting to the database, that you be able to recode them back to the original unit. The database does not accept units or work areas that are unique to a specific organization, and we like to be able to compare results by units and work areas, or any of the other background questions like tenure or interaction with patients, etc.
Thank you. Another question for you, Teresa, this one from Michael Millinson, asking a question about negatively worded items. For example, one about working faster, even if it means taking shortcuts. And then I believe maybe he's referencing the Excel tool where the result says, it's positive, neutral, or negative. And so that's potentially confusing when it's negatively worded. Can you address that or say how we might be changing that in the future?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up about the negatively worded items. So I think this item, it's from the medical office survey. It might also a similar item in the hospital survey. That particular item or any of the negatively worded items is what we put them in so that respondents are truly taking the survey and not completely straight lining across the entire survey. So just saying, strongly agree, strongly agree, strongly agree. And then also too, it's just some items are worded better when you word them negatively. So in this particular case, for this item where, I think I can't remember the exact item, but working faster, even if it means taking shortcuts, that particular item, if you answered strongly disagree or disagree, that would be a positive answer. And if you look at our Excel tool or our results, you will basically, the tool automatically creates that. So it would show a positive response to that particular to that particular question. So it's not that if everybody answers strongly agree or agree, that's positive. No, if there's a negatively worded item, it's actually the reverse, and the Excel tool automatically calculates it as a % positive. And the way that we present it as well in our feedback reports and in the database report would also be as a % positive calculated correctly. I hope that makes sense.
All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Next question is for you, Teresa, from Kristen Vogren. To clarify, survey data submission is only once a year, correct? Is the data submission period the same time each year?
So, thank you, Kristen. Just wanted to bring up that we work with AHRQ extensively to come up with the schedule for data submission. And we generally make the submission periods every 2 years so that organizations can have enough time to implement action planning and patient safety and improvement initiatives to see their scores increase. I think that's pretty much what we do. As far as it being at the same time, every 2 years, we try to do that, but sometimes there are shifting priorities. So we may shift our schedule a little bit. So yes, we generally try to do at least hospital in June, but we cannot say for sure if there's a shifting priority by AHRQ. And we do put all of our schedule, our entire schedule is on the AHRQ website. So if you go to www.ahrq.gov/SOPS, and then you go to SOPS databases, you will see the schedule there, and it's always posted. So thank you for that question.
Okay, and there's one more follow-up from Kristen. Once data has been submitted, what's the average turnaround time to receive results?
So we generally have a kind of a broad submission period. So it depends on when you submitted. If you submitted at the beginning of the submission period, it's going to take several months for you to get your feedback reports. We also do analysis, and we have to basically create what we call the database results and get those in order before we can put out your feedback reports. So I would say it's probably 2 to 3 months before you get your report.
Yeah, and just to clarify, right, your data submission period is a month, and then we're processing the data, and then the feedback report would it contain not only the submitter's results, but results compared to the database. So
that's right. That's right. And it's a huge advantage, those results, because we generally get those results to you before the database reports are posted on the AHRQ website.
Thank you. Question for Teresa from Margaret Brady. Would the medical office SOP survey be appropriate for ambulatory clinics that are part of a hospital or hospital system?
So I'm glad you asked that question. Basically, we have a very specific definition for ambulatory surgery centers.
Oh, just
One,
Teresa, I think she's asking about the medical office SOPs
oh,
appropriate
okay.
for ambulatory clinics that are part of a hospital or health system.
Okay. So if the medical office or if the ambulatory surgery system resides specifically in the facility, in the hospital facility, I would use the hospital survey. The medical office survey is really made for medical offices, practices that are dealing with, ambulatory patients that come in for visits, not necessarily for surgery.
So yeah, I'm not sure they were asking about surgery, but to clarify, if it's an ambulatory surgery center, that would be the ASC SOPs.
Yeah.
And then if, like a lot of health systems now will have hospitals and, outpatient clinics and medical offices. So yes, for the medical offices, they'd administer the medical office SOPs, and then for the hospital itself, that would be the hospital survey.
That's correct. That's correct. I'm sorry. I was getting that a little confused. I think I saw the word ambulatory and I was thinking ambulatory surgery centers. But yes, just to confirm, if you have an ambulatory clinic within your hospital, please use the medical office survey. That would best suit you in that case. So thank you. I'm so sorry if I wasn't clear on that.
This is a question for Laura from Maureen Disbot. I think the safety culture data are some of the most important metrics in healthcare. The challenge with the survey is one of many, but we're asked. The challenge is that the survey is one of many that staff are asked to complete, and it's difficult to get engagement when the staff and the providers are so busy. Is there any interest in creating an abbreviated version or allowing us to use some of the questions, but not all, in our internal surveys?
That's a great question and comment. Thank you so much for sharing that with us today. Without hopefully sounding like a broken record, we love to hear from you and we appreciate your concern. We understand survey fatigue is a thing and that there's so many important things that are assessed and asked of healthcare providers and staff. We totally get that. We would love to hear from you, so feel free to shoot us the email at safetyculturesurveys@westat.com. But just kind of jumping back a tiny bit, when we were talking about the SOP surveys and the development process and saying that getting input from others and kind of revisiting that, one of the things we did hear from when the first version of the hospital survey was released in 2004 until we made the version 2.0 was that we were hearing that people were interested in a shorter instrument. So that wasn't like the only focus, but that was one of the things that we considered as we were looking through the HSOPs survey items and determining, which were really important to still keep, and then what maybe didn't need to stay in to make a possible shorter instrument. And the HSOPs 2.0 is a shorter version of an updated version for the original one. Again, thank you so much for sharing that, and we're open to hearing from you. And we know everybody has been expressing interest before about shorter surveys. And then I think you were also asking about like if you can currently do just some of it. So right now, to be a SOP survey, you would have to administer it in its entirety, and for submitting to the database, as Teresa discussed. So you wouldn't want to just pick and choose and cut out certain items, or else it would affect the SOP survey.
And just Laura, on a related question from Teresa Arnold, are there any plans to update any of the other SOP surveys similar to the hospital version 2.0?
I can't speak to any like immediate plans that I know of, but I think Karen had answered a question earlier about that, and just that we would love to hear from you. The immediate one that we shared today was doing the supplemental item sets for nursing homes. But again, if you are a survey user and you are out there doing this and having experience with it and saying, hey, I've been doing this and this is what I think about, the medical office survey, and any suggestions you have, or, we're constantly thinking about the topic areas and how we could be improving. So would just love to hear from you and welcome any feedback.
All right. Next question for Teresa. The surveys include open-ended questions at the end under your comments. If someone's submitting to any of the SOPS databases, do they submit the open-ended comments that go in that section?
So thank you so much for asking that question. It would be really hard for us to review everyone's comments in a timely fashion, so we do not accept comments to the databases. However, if you participate in any of our pilots, we do include a comment section at the end, and we actually clean and provide an overall pilot comments report to you as part of your feedback report for pilot survey data collection only. So no, the databases does not accept comments, but please, if you are interested in any of our pilots, you will receive a comments report for your participation.
Okay. Next question for Laura from Beth Johnson. So if someone takes one of the SOPS surveys and puts it in a web software program like SurveyMonkey, and then wants to submit the data to the database, would they need to send the survey to you, to WSTAT for approval?
Thank you so much for your question, Beth. So no, international users would need to get permission from AHRQ to administer the survey, but you can administer the survey without sending it ahead of time. However, if you are planning to submit it to the database, our team is fantastic at helping to make sure that the survey follows the structure that it's supposed to, in the SOPS that's posted on the AHRQ website. So, that you've got your questions in the right order and that you didn't inadvertently, delete anything. So our technical assistance team can work with you to kind of preview your survey and make sure that it aligns with what the core SOPS survey should on the SOPS website, and that the data specs would be appropriate and work for data submission, so that you could have your survey be work for submission.
All right. I think we have time maybe for one more question, and I think it's about which surveys to use for which scenarios. So Laura, I wonder if you can answer. If someone has ambulatory surgery areas that are in a hospital setting, which survey would they use? And this is a question from Mildred Russin.
Okay, so this was like a outpatient type of place inside of the hospital, Joanne?
It looks like that is. It's sort of combined inpatient and ambulatory surgery.
Okay, so I think, did we answer this earlier, Teresa? Was this that they would use
Yeah, so I was confusing them both, but basically if a hospital shares physical space, like inside the, if an ambulatory surgery center shares physical space with the hospital, that is the outpatient ASC is within the actual hospital, you should use the hospital survey. ASCs that we use for this specific ambulatory surgery center have a different criteria, and hospitals that are with ASCs that are within a hospital should use the hospital survey.
And so basically folks can go to the survey user's guide for each survey, and in each user's guide it provides specific criteria for which settings are best for use with each of those surveys. So you might check that out. So we're at the end of our time. I wonder if, I'm sorry we didn't get to all of your questions, but we got to a fair number of them. So thank you so much. And if you wanted to follow up with questions, feel free to email our technical assistance line, safetyculturesurveys@westat.com. So a brief webcast evaluation will pop up when you close out from today's webcast. Please take a moment to provide us with your feedback, as it helps us improve our offerings and plan future events. We invite you to visit the AHRQ website and contact us again by email if you have any questions. Thanks again for joining us. This concludes today's presentation.